at least my favorite, would always say, I mean, I can't guarantee he was the best. Who knows? But my favorite college professor, Dr. Smith, not related to Mr. Smith. Well, maybe actually. Who knows? Would always say, if you don't know what to do something. And at first I was like, what? Like, I don't know what to do. How am I supposed to do something if I don't know what to do? He's like, no, you're trying to look at the whole thing. You're trying to, like, get to the answer, and you don't know how to get to the answer. And you get yourself, like, stuck. Do anything you know how to do. That was his point. If you don't know how to get to the answer, do something you know how to do. And then maybe you'll inch your way closer. Eva?
I was going to ask if I can explain the problem because I found, like, a pattern that helped me solve it.
I mean, can I try first and then see if that's this, like, just I feel like my way might be more efficient if you found, like, or you might have done the same thing. We have 2 points. We have 2 points. 2 points make a what? 2 points make a line.
Yeah.
We've been talking a lot about lines. Lines often have a slope. Slope is rise over run, or delta y over delta x. Okay. What's my change in y? 4. What's my change in x?
2.
What's my slope?
1 over 2 over
2. 4. Somebody fell over yesterday. I'm not looking for a concussion for math class. So I know now my slope. I now know my slope. And we've done this a couple times in class, but this is like, if you at least made it to this point, great. And if that's where you got stuck, fine. But the last thing we need to do to figure out our b, anyone able to tell me? Pick a point. We have a really nice, well, I don't want to actually use that point because it's too hard to tell what's the x and what's the y. So I guess I'll use negative numbers, even though I don't love negative numbers. I have an x and a y that match this situation. So fill those in. Where I had y, negative 3. Where I had x, negative 1. B, this is how I figure it out. So, negative 3 equals negative 2 plus b. Well, what does b have to be to make this true? B's got to be negative 1. And I can come back to my equation. And now my equation is y equals 2x plus negative 1. Once we know the slope, we can fill in a point. That was the only request sent to me from Closure, so I wanted to make sure I got to that. If you still don't understand how to do that, come work with me. It normally takes a couple times of like, oh, if I do that and then I do that, and then, okay, like you got to practice it a couple times for it to start to become like natural. But today we're going to get back to our chapter 7 stuff. So I don't know, I bet some of your teachers, and one of you drew this on your paper, where there was one of these things where it was like, when we're multiplying or dividing, if you cover up, like, or no, if you have a negative and a positive, you get a negative. If you have a negative and a negative, you get a positive. Something like little tricks like this. I kind of forget that because I don't use that very much. Read what this says.
Cover the letter of what you need.
Okay, out loud, I guess. Cover the letter of what you need. So if we cover D, what do we now still have? S and T. Or is it a fraction or are they beside each other? And actually speed and rate are like the same thing. So D, you could either say is S times T, or you could say D is R times T if we're talking rates. Speed and rate are basically the same thing. This is on the classwork handout from today, which was in the bin. If you don't have this triangle in front of you, you should try to go put this triangle in front of you. So I want to talk about speed, or like rate, right? Speed. If I cover up the speed, what do I have? Distance over time. If I cover up the t, what do I have? Distance over speed. And there's your three equations for distance, speed, and time. So, that's what you should say louder to me. If I cover up, no, I'm teaching you this way right now. This is just a trick. This is like one of those, it's just a trick. If we have this triangle and we cover up whatever we're looking for, so we just covered up the D. What we have left and how it's written tells us what it is. D is S times T. If I instead cover up the S, it's D over T. If I instead cover up the T, it's D over S, the division. Whatever we cover up, what's left is like how we find it. So, what we're doing today, once we release, is your team, my advice is have a team of 4. I wouldn't do any less than 3. There's too many jobs. Your team is going to get a car, cute little car, little beach cruiser. If you turn it on and it won't move, maybe get a different car, because we should only need like 5 of these with our class. Your car should move. Your car will drive itself right off the table if I let it, but please don't, because we've used these for years and now they're starting to break. And you will need a measuring tape. As you look through your paper, I think I've made relatively clear directions. You don't necessarily need tape, but I will take tape out there if you want to tape down a starting line on the floor. So if you're on carpet, it might be a little hard to deal with the tape. But whatever tape you take down, we got to peel up at the end, right? We can't just leave a mess out there because they come and they like clean the floors and everything. So you'll need to be able to start your toy behind your starting line. Here's why. Let's say Kyrie, Will, and I are a group, and Kyrie's starting the stopwatch, and I'm like waiting, and Kyrie says, go. Like, no. So what you're going to want to do is say, here's our starting line. Kyrie, start the stopwatch when the car passes, and Kyrie's going to start it, and then stop it whenever it needs stopped, which is based off what part of the activity you're on, Carter. Correct. You are stopping the stopwatch, because stopping the car is too difficult. But you're going to need to work together, because sometimes it's too much to like watch and like try to stop at the same time. Like you might need someone to call out, stop, right? Like when you cross whatever length or whatever. But be careful. There's 2 different parts of this. If you flip to the back, one part is a set amount of time. So you need the timer to call out like time or stop or whatever, and then someone is going to need to mark where your car was, which is why I think multiple rolls would be a good idea, because then you got to measure back to where you started. On the distance, yeah, you're just using a stopwatch like a stopwatch, and you're saying start at the start line, stop at 1 meter, or stop at 3 meters, or stop at 5 meters. What was the time? And you're filling in the time, and then we're going to calculate our rate. What we kind of want to figure out here is which of these cars is fastest, and which of these cars are slowest, because they're not all the same speed. Then, if you want to write some work of how we did rate, I've got directions here. And then we'll make a graph out of this, because also that's part of your homework.
Yay.
Like, well, there's like a make a graph problem on your homework. Questions about what we're doing with the cars? You are, mainly trying to fill in this table. So, for a stopwatch, You are welcome to use a Chromebook and just Google up stopwatch. And you can just use the space bar as start and stop. Or if you've got a smartwatch, that's fine. Or any kind of watch that has a stopwatch. You don't just want to count seconds or like watch the clock. It won't be accurate enough. So you want some kind of actual like stopwatch where it's like start, stop, that you're not just trying to count. Questions on what we're doing? So, step 1, get a team. Step 2, get a car and a measuring tape. Step 3, go to the family room and do the lab. Questions? Sweet, let's go.
I'll get this one.
Alright. Zach John Winkle.
Please make sure your group does not take 2 cars. I do not have enough. 1 car. You slow might actually be easier to deal with. So that's up to you
That makes a
guys.
sad noise. Let's get this one.
Guys, pick it and go. Like, get out of here. You don't get to like hand choose which one makes you feel the happiest. As long as it works, which I had checked all of them this morning, but then A decided to die.